Hi, Heike.
Hi there.
Hi, Heike.
Hi.
Heike.
Micah.
Oops, sorry.
All right. Well, yeah.
We're live, Kevin.
Right. Thank you, Chuck. All right. Good afternoon, Salary Commission members. We'll do a call to order here. So, Christian.
Here.
Monica.
Here.
Victor.
Here.
Heike.
Present.
And Brianna.
Present.
All right, Madam Chair, you have a quorum. So the first item, the chair and I received an email from Casey that due to her work schedule, she's going to be unable to participate in the meetings going forward. So she voluntarily resigned her position, and pursuant to the bylaws, the Article 3, Section D, the alternate member automatically moves up. So congratulations, Victor, on your ascension to a regular member here.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Victor. That was easy. Thank you, Moss.
Well, there's a lot of pressure because Brianna mentioned it last time and I was like, oh my God, what does that mean?
I was trying to plant the seed just in case. So thank you for being willing to step into the role, Victor. Great. Thanks, Clerk Moss, for doing that. Would you be able to share the meeting minutes from our last meeting for us to review?
Yeah.
Or did I miss something? Sorry.
They were in the packet, but I can certainly share. One second here.
Put Kevin on the spot. He needs it.
No, and I'm sorry, Kevin. And really, I'm just looking for a motion to accept the meeting minutes from our last meeting, unless there's someone who noted any corrections or additions.
So moved.
There's a motion from Heike. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Right. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
So I'm wondering if I should abstain since I wasn't part of it. I don't just want to make sure that I'm following the proper protocol.
It is strictly in your purview of what you would like to do.
Okay. I'm okay. I approve.
Okay. Motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Right. Well, the first item I'd like to cover, because we have a couple guests that are participating today, and we have some questions that Victor pulled together for us, and I believe those were in the back packet as well. We wanted to review those before Latricia Tillman joined us, and just review those, see if there's any additions or any other questions we'd like to incorporate for our conversation with her, and go on from there. Did everyone have an opportunity to review the questions, and any feedback for us as we prepare for our discussion with her?
By the way, these are just generic. These are very generic questions for these types of positions that I've found that we've used and where I work. So, didn't really reinvent the wheel that much.
And just a reminder for the group, Latricia is the Chief Equity Officer for Washington County, and how the invitation came about was from one of our previous meetings. I think Victor asked a great question around how does the work of the county support more diverse people being considered for these roles. So we wanted to get some insight from her. So that's where the question stemmed from.
Yes.
And I did share the questions with her as well.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so we thank you, Clerk Moss. They were provided to her prior, so she's had a chance to review those and look at them. So if there aren't any additions, we'll just move forward with those questions. And Victor, I'd ask for your help with helping to facilitate that conversation. Maybe we can tag team. So I'm not the only one asking her questions. And if there are things that come up in the moment, I think we'll have some time to get those out. So appreciate flexibility there. Right. And I think we have you up next, Sherry, to provide some information to us. Are you ready? You're on mute, Sherry.
I have given quite a bit of information over to Heike with regards to internal Washington County salary and commissions, and those are basically what you would see is the charter, and then the what is it called? I had all these emails out here, and then I got a phone call from Kenny. Anyway, so rules of procedures as well. Plus, I also gave her a couple links to the different jobs that are posted on the website where Heike and I believe Christian is working with her. They can filter through that for the administrative and director positions because of the change. And then I don't want the change in the structure. And then I feel it's your responsibility to decide who you're going to look at with regards to position and responsibilities. Plus, I also provided the link to the actual salaries of the different positions so that you can actually do a correlation, pull up the director, and then you can see what is the salary range for that position. Additional information is, as I have provided, was the more specific questions relating to the actual salaries. I also have just provided, just got off a meeting with Kenny and provided the information as to how they determine their salaries for higher positions such as administrators and directors. He is still working on one last piece to try and find the information on Commissioner Rogers' salary because that was calculated differently from the full-time. I had requested the information of how they calculated his so that you would have that information if there's how you're going to determine with his being different due to part-time versus the full-time, so that you know you would have all the information you need. I also, aside from the human resource, I did provide a number of things to all of you with regard to the budget cuts. I'm hoping all of you received them.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, there were.
Oh, Monica, do you need them? And Victor?
Yeah, I did not receive anything.
Oh, did Monica, who was it that had given me a different email address?
That is me, yes.
Okay, it went to that one that you had, the new email address that you created. Have you had an opportunity to look at that?
Yeah, what is the date of your email, if you wouldn't mind?
Okay, I have to go through my emails here.
That is okay. We can do that
127.
offline.
Okay.
It's January 27th.
Are we talking
Thank
about the monthly message? Monthly budget?
Yes, there was actually two emails that I provided all the board members, and the first was the announcement to attend a public meeting, and the second one was where you could actually watch the meeting between now I've got to look at his name, the CFO and the commissioners to talk about the budget problems that are happening.
Okay, yeah.
Thank
Yeah,
you. Yes, I have that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Sherry, for that update. And I want to check in with Heike and Christian to see if there's any questions or any follow-ups based on the information that Carrie shared that would be helpful to discuss?
Not at this point. Thank you very much, Sherry. There's a lot of information, a lot of good information. I've shared it with Christian, and I just shared the recent stuff that came in today as well. And so we have all of that. There's a lot to go through, and I think that our next step is just going through all the information.
Thank you. Well, we're running a little ahead of schedule, and if there's some flexibility, I'd like to talk about the external comparator data. Given the update that Casey will not be participating on the commission, I'd like to ask Victor if you could partner with Monica on the external comparators, and we can figure out a appropriate way or venue to get additional support if you all need it. That is the body of work that Casey and I worked on when the commission did this work a couple of years ago. So I'm happy to try to contribute if you all need some support. But I think the previous results of the commission is a good resource, and just kind of how that spreadsheet was laid out and where we pulled that information. But I wanted to try to connect those dots since Victor has been knighted as an official board member. So Victor, are you willing to provide that partnership with Monica on the external comparator work?
Sure. Actually, Monica already reached out. And so we've been communicating. So yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you, Monica. And
Yes, of course.
ahead.
It would be wonderful to work together with you, Victor. And we will be scheduling a couple of meetings together and kick off that work. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, I know we have time after our guest to talk about the comparators. And my assumption, just given what we've just talked about, is there aren't a lot of updates at this point. So are there any updates or questions that anyone wants to share, or anything that people need at this point? Okay. All right. Great. Well, and Clerk Moss, let me know if we have anyone join early, because we may be able to shift them up a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know while we have time here, so the next two meetings, we did set aside time to invite the commissioners. So I believe on the 23rd is probably going to be their Commissioner Phi, Commissioner Treese.
Okay.
And then I think for March, it'll be Commissioner Willie and Chair Harrington. And then I will work with Commissioner Rogers.
Great.
Oh, and it looks like Latricia may be almost ready, but she joined on the other one. So let me see if I can hear. So.
Right. Well, we will have her join, and then we have Sherry. Is it pronounced Tanya Ange, or how do you know how to pronounce our other guests? Oh, you're on mute.
Ange.
Ange. Okay, thank you.
Oh, and Heike and Christian, if you guys need help with anything else and walk through how to do it and want to meet just one-on-one with me, feel free to reach out and we can set up a team. I can set up a Teams meeting, and then we can do some screen sharing.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, looks like Latricia is joining us right now. Good afternoon, Latricia. Welcome.
Good afternoon.
Hello, Latricia Tillman. Thank you so much for being willing to meet with us today. I'm Brianna E. Candom, and I'm the chair of the commission, and you are our first guest to the commission, and we're really interested in hearing a bit about your role with the county, as well as some questions around how does the work that your team does that supports promoting equity within some of these positions. So we have some specific questions that we shared with you, but I'd like to pass the floor to you to start, and then we might have some follow-up questions if that works for you.
Sure, thank you. It's nice to see you again, Brianna, and nice to see everyone else. Thank you for your service. I did get the questions from Kevin just a little bit ago. And I think the first thing that I'll just share is that my role in the Office of Equity, Inclusion, and Community Engagement was established in February 2020 by board resolution and order. And so that is what defines the scope of my role and the scope of the office. And nowhere in there does the scope include recruiting diverse candidates to run for office. We don't do outreach for candidates. We don't support anyone in their election process. So the way that we're structured is I report to the county administrator, and so am guided by the code of ethics of the ICMA, which must be the International City County Management Association, and the code of ethics paints a very clear line between politics and policy. And so our office is very much on the policy side, not the politics side. Let me see if I can just pull up real quick a link to the resolution that created the office and our work. Let's see. I want to share that with you, and then I'll talk through it, because that's like our work over the past 2 years has really just been focused on implementing the equity resolution. So the equity resolution contains quite a bit of language around the county's commitment to embed equity into everything that it does, including policy, practice, etc. It created a specific charge and like several specific action items for me to take within our office, which includes community engagement. So we do have a community engagement function. I can talk a little bit more about that in a minute. As well as looking at best practices for equity, diversity, and inclusion in all of the lines of business of Washington County. Let me see if I can. Maybe I can't find a chat. Is there no chat function? I can't find a chat function. Okay, well.
There is one, yeah.
Oops. Okay, well, I'll have to provide that to you later, but I could share my screen if that's helpful.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
To just walk through this with you. Okay, here we go. Okay, can everybody see this? Okay. Okay, so the board acknowledged Washington County as one of the most racially and ethnically diverse counties in the state of Oregon. I think based on census data that came out after 2020, we probably are the most racially and ethnically diverse county. We have a significant proportion of English language learners or people with limited English proficiency. The board recognized that the county, as well as Oregon, as well as the United States, has a history of racial discrimination, and that shows up in disparate impacts in terms of the wealth gap and employment, that there's underrepresentation in Washington County's workforce. And we recently did a workforce data analysis. And here, while it calls out the Hispanic or Latino, Latinx population, our workforce is actually significantly underrepresented in the Asian community. So we have significant underrepresentation across most job groups by the Asian community. We have overrepresentation in our criminal justice system. So that's sort of like the deficit side. And then of course, on the asset side, there's just a real richness of diversity, cultural diversity, resilience within Washington County. So all of these whereases sort of set the context. And then the resolution talks about the board committing to foster, support, and strengthen equity and inclusion in the county's program, practice, and policy, deepening our understanding of inequities, providing leadership to make Washington County more equitable and inclusive, spending the public's dollar in a way that maximizes benefits for the community and provides equitable access, allocating resources needed to advance the work of the Office of Equity, Inclusion, and Community Engagement, have workforce development training, and then structuring our office and our organization to have better practices. So with all of that, they established the Office of Equity, Inclusion, and Community Engagement and the Chief Equity Officer position. And then they made basically some commitments that form the work plan that we've been following for the past 2 years. So one is the Leadership Equity Council, which includes our county department heads, our assistant county administrators, as well as the chairs of several subcommittees underneath the Equity Leadership Council and Department Equity Council. So it's a fairly large committee that is responsible for considering, vetting, and informing equity policies and best practice. We meet tomorrow. We do a quarterly meeting of the Equity Leadership Council. We meet tomorrow and we'll be updating our bilingual pay policy with their input, and then also establishing an Americans with Disability Act policy and procedure for clients and community members. So that's kind of the level of engagement at the Equity Leadership Council. They also wanted us to establish a Communities of Color, what they call the Communities of Color Advisory Board, but what we call the Advisory Council on Racial Equity. They want purchasing policy that supports more equitable procurement and supplier diversity. And so we're working on that. And then a workforce pipeline and training program. And right now we're working with our talent acquisition team to provide them with training to help build out a diversity recruitment policy that will be applied countywide. And then we do quarterly reports to the board, and I'll make sure that Kevin has this information so that he can provide it with you, because we can provide you with a website you can look at that has links to our quarterly updates to the board. And if you have, 45 minutes free, you can take a watch at those. So this basically establishes the same thing, the role of the Chief Equity Officer, that's my role. And then other positions, we have a civil rights officer, data analyst, policy coordinator, which we've changed to be our equity policy manager. So creating a reporting structure, and a supplier diversity coordinator. We've also been charged with implementing civil rights. So being the compliance function for the county. So that includes Title VI, which is client and community civil rights. Equal employment opportunity and affirmative action, and the Americans with Disabilities Act. And then it goes on to talk more about the Equity Leadership Council. So that just, I will make sure you have the opportunity to review the full document, but that gives you a sense of kind of how we're organized. So we have quite a bit of internal organizational development function, as well as a community engagement function. So let me just talk a little bit about the community engagement work. We have been working very closely at the board's direction to help support the board in launching quarterly town halls for the community. And so that has included like a budget focused town hall focused on senior services, or several focused on COVID, of course. And we have done community engagement related to supporting our boards and commissions. And so that to do that, we work with the various board and commission liaisons, and we're working right now on establishing best practice for diversifying boards and commissions. We passed recently, or work with the board to pass an equitable community engagement policy, which talks about, you know, the planning that's needed to engage more marginalized communities within Washington County in any community engagement effort. So really creating that thoughtfulness and intentionality, and then also thinking about how we can invest to remove barriers to participation for communities that have historically not participated in governmental processes. So we're working on that right now as well. And we've funded several civic engagement cohorts. And so that has been a training program that for the past several years has been primarily run by Adelante Mujeres for in a multicultural bilingual training program. But we also are now expanding that program out to include a partnership with APANO, Asian Pacific American Network of Oregon, and Unite Oregon to extend the reach for that kind of civic leadership training. And then our community engagement team has also been focused somewhat kind of internally. They're coordinating staff, so doing sort of some internal community engagement around the celebration of Cultural Heritage Months. So Native American Heritage, Black History Month, which we're in right now, and other cultural heritage months. And we do that as a bridge between our internal workforce and community partners. So bring in community speakers, community leaders to help inform not just our own education on cultural norms and strengths within different communities, but also to identify different policy opportunities to improve Washington County's practice in the delivery of our services. So one great example of that is in the work around our Native American Heritage Month. The community members that we brought in to help us with the proclamation also made recommendations around tribal consultation for building, naming, bridges, that kind of thing. So like environment, built environment and natural environment, as well as recommendation for the establishment of a land acknowledgement policy and practice within the county. So it was much more than just a, here's the community and here's our norms and culture and here's how the county can better operate in partnership with the tribal community and the urban Indian community. I can pause there and just see, is this the information that you wanted? Are there other things? I'm happy to answer any questions that you have or take the conversation whichever way you prefer that it go.
No, thank you for that overview. And I think just being able to connect the resolution to what you've done and the team has done to implement those things is really helpful for me. Victor, I saw you come off mute. Did you want to jump in?
No, that's right. Mostly I was really focused on the elected side of things, but I'm seeing a lot more of a clarification. You really are focused on the workforce, internal, and of course the community outreach is mostly to get folks engaged with the county. That makes a lot of sense. No, this is a good. I think I'll go through the resolution, and I'm sure more questions will come up. But this is great.
Anyone else have any questions or comments?
Does the county keep data in regards to the workforce, like self-identification of of race and ethnicity and so on?
For elected candidates?
For just employees?
Oh, yeah, we do.
Okay.
So we just updated our equal employment opportunity report, which we have to report on every 2 years to the federal government. And then we're currently working now on our affirmative action plan, which has to be updated every year. We did do a report to the board on the workforce diversity, and I can also provide that with Clerk Moss or whoever is responsible for communicating and providing the staff support. I don't know if that's Brad or Kevin, but I can provide it to whoever so that you can have a link to that, both the video of that presentation and then also the documentation so you can look at the data.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I'll just note that when I started in 2020, the practice as it relates to our boards and commissions was not to collect race and ethnicity data. In fact, it was discouraged at that time to collect that information and to consider that information. But I can't remember what year it was, but there was a law that was passed in the state legislature which said that it was allowable for the consideration of race, ethnicity, and other factors, of course, in determining appointments to boards to make sure that boards reflect the diversity of the community that's being served. And so with that clarification, we encourage the board to continue to ask those questions and consider that data, and then the board and commission liaisons to provide that summary data to the board so that it can be one of the factors that they consider when they're making board appointments. And so prior to that conversation, I believe only 13% of applicants to boards and commissions provided race ethnicity data, and now upwards of 95% of candidates provide that information. So it just adds more data. We've also modified some of the questions that get asked for people who want to serve on boards and commissions so that we can make sure that there is a diversity of perspectives and life experiences that are considered in those board appointments. So that diversity and inclusion work that we're doing internal to the workforce, we're also doing on the volunteer side as it relates to boards and commissions.
Great, that's great. Monica, I saw you come off mute. Did you have a question?
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to say how much I appreciate the fact that your board is and your direction is really focused on policy, but that there are other ways to really affect it and be able to provide the support that other minorities need in order to elevate themselves and their voices and run for office. So thank you for that. You talked about leadership training that other nonprofits around Washington County and the Portland area do. So thank you for that. And thanks for sharing.
Absolutely. And I do think that participation in the boards and commissions is a really great way for people who are considering maybe a run for office to be able to have some exposure to governmental process, governmental practice, as well as the opportunities and the constraints that we all operate in when we operate within a government setting. So it's like a great toe in the water. I've seen it happen that way in other jurisdictions, that people start in that way as a volunteer and then kind of work their way deeper into government world, either through employment or through elected office. So I think that diversity on our boards and commissions really is a path toward that, but that is not that's not inside of our scope.
Thank you very much. Heike, Christian, anything for you before we let Miss Latricia go?
Well, I also wanted to say thank you. And along the same line, it seemed that Monica just raised, it seemed like with some of your community outreach, sharing the information, because our charge is to evaluate the compensation to increase the diversity among the elected officials. And it seems like some of that community outreach. Do you share the opportunities for elected office, or is that information addressed at all when you're doing some of that community outreach? Or okay. it's maybe, and maybe it's natural, like you just said, it may be naturally getting involved in the volunteer opportunities, or maybe just providing the information. So anyway, but thank you again. Thank you for your information.
Yeah, thank you. No, it's something that I can look into further too. Like, are we able to talk about what would even the process be without getting into the politics side, to kind of demystify, like, when do you have to announce by, and how much does it actually cost to run for office, and that kind of thing. That I don't know. Yeah, it hasn't been something that we have focused on because it was not in the original scope of the resolution, but it's something I can look into.
Well, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate the work that you and your team does. It definitely has some connections to what we're doing here as a commission. So really appreciate you sharing that information with us, and thank you.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. It's nice to see you all, and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
All right, Madam Chair. So now we're welcoming County Administrator Tanya Ange. So welcome, Tanya.
Thank you, Tanya, for joining us. We really appreciate you being available. We felt it would be important to connect with you and really hear from you. I think one thing I'm curious about is the work that was done in 2021, if you've seen any sort of impacts to the candidates for positions for boards as a result of the work that the Salary Commission conducted, and maybe any opportunities that you think we should consider as we move forward in this process and do our external and internal comparator research.
So first, thank you. I want to extend appreciation to each of you for volunteering your time for this important process. So I can share, I don't have quantitative information, but so I'm coming to you with qualitative information. This last year, we did have 3 seats up for re-election from the commission. And I will say some individuals, community members who were interested in running had reached out to me and expressed interest, which is pretty common in local government, that they do reach out to the county administrator. Just wondering more, number one, what is my role, since I am one of the 3 direct reports to the board, but any perspectives, it's how they can get information. And there were a couple comments how appreciative of the salary for the district commissioners and the chair, because to be able to do the job, they felt that they would have to leave their current employment. So just sharing that piece of feedback from a value in being able to diversify the candidates that we have, not only running for office, because running for office, you need to consider what that means if you win office to your life and your family and your well-being. So that's a qualitative kind of feedback, just what I heard from community candidates considering running.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And just in terms of the intersections between your work and what the board commissioners do, can you share a little bit about that and just what you see from your role? And then rest of the board members, please have your questions ready, because I'm going to pass it to you next.
So my role as county administrator is to manage the day-to-day operations of the county, so that the board has the ability to focus on policy and being responsive to the community that we serve. So in essence, I see me as part of that being the steward of that democratic process and handling the day-to-day operations, which range from ensuring maybe a board policy is implemented to standard finance, HR, IT processes that need to be in place in any public, nonprofit, or private sector business. As far as a working relationship with the board, I have a very close working relationship with the board. The board of five, they're 5 individuals, as well as they do operate as a group in decision making. So having that connection with each of the individuals to ensure that they are having their information needs met and connected to the decisions that we are making, not only on a day-to-day operational basis, but helping for those strategic policy decisions. So that's more on an individual basis. And then there is the responsibility of the group basis. So helping ensure that, and one thing I try to pride myself in is if information is provided to one, it's provided to all 5 to ensure that they have that equal access to information and decision-making.
Thank you. Heike, did you have a question?
I guess just broadly, and I have not gone through the information. I've been provided information with job descriptions and org chart and everything, but can you identify, is there another comparable position to yours that we should evaluate that you would feel is comparable to yours, or just when we're doing the comparisons of the internal compensation?
So there is not an internal comp that is comparable to my position. You would need to look outside for a comparable.
Okay.
So there are 3 direct reports to the board, the Clean Water Services CEO, myself as county administrator, and county council. So you could potentially look at those direct reports as probably the closest comparable within the county structure. When the board conducts my performance evaluation, they do compare other jurisdictions with county administrators.
Okay.
Is that helpful?
Yeah, that's helpful. So really, I mean, the skills, knowledge, responsibilities for all of the direct reports to the board, probably comparable then, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. That's very helpful.
In different roles.
Yes. But as far as the level of responsibility, scope, stuff like this.
Yes, I would say if you compare county council to myself, county council is responsible for the for legal and management of the county council department and legal advice and litigation on behalf of the county, whereas I, as the county administrator, are responsible for the day-to-day operations of the county, overseeing 2,400 employees and a $1.6 billion budget. I work closely with county council, but there is still a different scope as far as knowledge, skills, and abilities. County council is a legal function, so it's an attorney, where a county administrator, like my training and degrees, are public administration and urban planning. So that's a different CWS CEO. I don't want to speak incorrectly for Diane Tadeguchi Dennis's expertise, but that's really on the utilities side. So there is different skills, knowledge, ability, and there is some scale difference between the 3 positions.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I'm curious, do you think it would be helpful for us to connect with those other 2 roles just to get some more insight on the work that they do, or just kind of what's your perspective? And I'm also wondering if there's a lot of cross section between the work that you do and what they do, or is it pretty siloed?
Yeah, so Tom Carr, county council, and I have a very close working relationship because, and let me clarify one point. Tom Carr is county council for Washington County, and I'm the county administrator for Washington County. Diane Tadeguchi Dennis is CEO of Clean Water Services, which is a wholly separate organization. So the board serves as the board of directors for Clean Water Services. So Tom does not provide legal advice for CWS. So the board is operating in separate. So there's a line, finances are separate, operations are separate between Washington County and CWS. We share a governing board.
That's helpful. Thank you. What other questions are out there?
Miss Ange, I have one quick question. Did you make a reference regarding external competitors that are used when setting up the salaries internally?
So I didn't make a reference to county.
Or is that part of the process?
Yes. So there are comparators that the board uses to set my salary. The salary comparators that we use as a county, if that's interest you want, I can just follow up with HR to make sure that I'm accurate on that, because for some classes, job classes, we use different comparators because of the functions of those jobs. So I can follow up with that information if that's helpful, Monica.
That would be helpful. Thank you very much.
Tanya, I believe I've already just received that information and passed that on to Heike from HR and from the classification specialist with Washington County. I can send that information over to you if you feel it's different. Let me know and you can go and get it. Otherwise, I will send it over to Monica as well.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sherry.
Yeah, appreciate that. Christian or Victor?
I don't have any questions at this time.
Yeah, same here.
Well, we really appreciate what you do for Washington County and just your availability to talk to us and for us to learn more about those intersections between your work, the board, and the other two direct reports to the board. We might have some follow-up for you, but I think we covered really what we were hoping to gain. So just appreciate your time and willingness to share with us this afternoon.
Yeah, I'm happy to be available for whatever this commission needs to finalize your findings.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Have a great afternoon.
You too.
Thank you.
Nice to
Thank
meet
you.
everyone.
Well, I believe I'm just double checking our agenda for today. That concludes our set agenda topics, but I want to leave some time for any other questions that the group might have. Is there anything we want to cover or anyone else we'd like to consider interviewing through the course of this process? Or
Can I just say
yeah, Victor.
on the Chief and Equity Inclusion Officer, that was really good because I honestly was confusing her role a little bit. And in regard to recruitment of elected officials, like they literally don't have anything to do with that, which I found kind of interesting. And now I'm kind of wondering if Washington County or any county in America does that. But anyway, that's a whole separate thing. I just thought I would mention that. So thank you for inviting her. That was really good.
No, I think it was helpful understanding the work of that team. And I think there's some connections, although not direct, but just that engagement and awareness about the work that the county is doing to support DEI. I think it has tentacles to the work that we're doing as a commission. And hello, Brad. Good to see you. Anything you want to add or share with the group? I don't know if the team has met you yet.
Yeah, so I was your attorney in the last go around and have not been able to do that this go around, but it's good to see you. And Victor, to kind of answer your question, I would be surprised if there's any jurisdiction where county employees or government employees are actively recruiting for their bosses in a sense in an official capacity. What employees do in their own time is fine, but we don't But the county as an organization doesn't pay people to recruit people to run for elected office. And we always try to make a very clear distinction, and we don't get involved in the politics part of things. So, yeah.
That's good to hear. Yep.
Yes,
Um,
thank you for that, Brad. No, I think it was clear in the presentation that we heard. But it's interesting to kind of hear that resolution and the resolution to form this commission and how those things connect. So thank you.
Thanks for that clarification. Yeah.
Heike, did you have something? I know you were off mute.
Yeah, I just had a quick question. Are we gonna, well, actually, just a confirmation, I guess. We're gonna hear from the HR director as well, correct?
I'm not sure if we requested to meet with them, and Clerk Moss, please correct me if I'm wrong, because I think Sherry was going to provide the bulk of the HR information to us, but I know we did that before, Heike, and that's probably really valuable to request to have her meet with us.
Well, and like I said, I have not had the opportunity yet to go through all the information that Sherry has provided. But one of my questions was, and maybe this is in the information you can share with me, Sherry, but I want to know what's the thought process or the process itself for setting internal compensation. If there is a process that's followed, or the weighting or compensation philosophy or anything like that. And so maybe it's in the information you provided and I just haven't gone through it yet.
There is some of the information from the classification specialist, which are documents on how they actually compensate someone. It may be better to get that information from the director. There, when I'd asked for written documentation on it, they did not have how that occurs.
So this is going to be a little complicated because our HR director has taken a new position and her last day is tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
So, but there is a method to the madness. I can assure you that there is a process that they go through to determine compensation for positions.
So Eva forwarded me to Joanna. So that may be the person that you want to come and talk to you. And her last name is Small, Joanna Small. I don't know if Clerk Moss could arrange for her to come and talk.
I certainly can. If that is the wish of the commission, I can reach out.
Yes, that would be great.
Okay.
Thank you. And yeah, I think to give Heike and Christian an opportunity to look at the information that Sherry provided, if we could not have them come on the 23rd, but the following meeting or shortly thereafter, that would be helpful to give some time to review that information. But we'll take them if that's when they're only available. So appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's really valuable to this group to hear from HR and how they do that. Joanna is likely to be the right person, but it could be a group effort as well. And she probably needs a little more time to prep for this meeting than just a short turnaround.
Great. Hopefully a few weeks will help, and maybe we can do something similar and provide some questions up front about just comp philosophy ahead of time, so she's set to address those questions. All right, anything else from the group before we adjourn?
All right. Kathy, thank you.
Seeing some no's around the board. Okay, well, we're set to meet again on the 23rd at 3 p.m. And we have a couple more interviews that will occur with some of the commissioners. And we're looking forward to hearing from each of them. And thank you all for participating. Clerk Moss, anything from you before we close out?
No, I do not have any other items.
Well, I will call our meeting to a close at 3:56. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for doing this.